Today on Theoretical Nonsense, we are going to be discussing Season 5, Episode 22, The Stag Convergence, and we are talking Lichens, Jewish basketball players, and German pre-wedding customs. Stay tuned. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
Make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride. All right. Ahoy there, Ryan.
Ahoy, Rob.
How are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Fantastic, because this is a great episode, The Stag Convergence.
There was a lot I liked about this, but I had two issues with it. So we'll talk about those when we get there. They didn't break the episode for me, but it's kind of like, I feel weird. I feel weird.
There is some, there's some stuff and everything like that, but at the same time, I still really enjoyed this episode, mostly because I do like the ending, and you do gradually see this change in Howard, and his little speech at the end just kind of makes it for me, because it was genuine, it was pure. So it was like, okay, this is like the start of like, remember like in the beginning when you kind of didn't believe when I told you that Howard will become my favorite character?
Yeah,
and because he was so irredeemable in the beginning of the series, but then once he meets Bernadette, it's very gradual, it takes a long time, but he does start becoming a better and better person.
and I love that we're able to see his actions mirrored on through Penny, right? So we see the genuineness that she hears his speech and like cries. So she's seeing that he's redeeming himself and turning into a better person. Like as an audience, we're there with her, like, holy shit, he is becoming better. Wow.
Yeah. I also liked I love Sheldon's black and whiteness, that he had to like follow social protocol. He's like, well, we're at a stag party, I'm gonna follow, I'm gonna use profane words, and I'm gonna drink.
There's going to be tobacco. There's going to be profanity. And we had some guest stars, so that was great.
Yeah, lots of guest stars. Will Wheaton comes back. I swear, is he just trying to break up everybody in the group? First Penny and Leonard, and now like, why would you post that, Will? Why?
Why'd you do it, buddy? He's a little troublemaker, very, very ornery. But I've known people like him throughout life that I've been friends with, like for no other reason than just to see the world burn. Like, what? Why do you have to do that?
I know. It does make me think like Howard in general as this just a large cautionary tale for life and everything. And I thought about this because I've been going through like a lot of parenting stuff on Instagram, just like, you know, like little pieces of advice and everything as like your kid gets older. What's the advice that you want to tell them? And especially when they're like a teenager and stuff like that, how the dumb shit that you do in the past will always find a way to come back and bite you in the ass. And this is exactly what happened with Howard. It's like, just because like you're young, you're single, you don't think you're going to get married and stuff like that, that you're just doing crazy stuff. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So it's crazy that like one or two things in your life can burn down your entire future.
Especially with the internet these days, right? How people film themselves doing the stupid shit.
Like us on a podcast. This is
exactly. Yeah, we've ruined our lives. We're already halfway there, so
it's already burned.
Right. I've burned enough stuff. I'm just reburning the ashes.
But yeah. So before we dive in, we have a little bit of housekeeping. We love emails. Email us at theoreticalnonsencepod@gmail.com, and we will read your email. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy. If you're on Apple, just scroll all the way down and click that 5 stars. Even better, write something nice. Find us on YouTube at Theoretical Nonsense. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification button. And we have a couple emails.
Yeah.
So we read Kyle's first email last time, but then he actually sent us another one.
You want to take that one? I'll take Hunter's.
Yeah, he was just thanking us for responding and everything. So he says, "Thanks for the response. I eagerly anticipate hearing the shout out." So hey, Kyle, you're getting another shout out. Um, based on my and then yeah, so he had that question on AI, so we answered it, and then he kind of responded, and we kind of gave him that a response, just because he's binging, but he's still far behind. But he gave us an update. Based on my binge listening, there's a good chance I'll catch up by then. Last week, where when I sent the first email, I was on episode 70, and now I'm on episode 96. You are plowing through this. Once I'm caught up, I hope to be more actively engaged with everyone. There have definitely been times when I've had comments or feedback, but since I'm so far behind, it would be impractical to respond to a comment from a podcast that's been over 6 months to a year old. Honestly, go for
Go
it.
for it.
Why not? We like hearing about it. We love Big Bang Theory talk, regardless if it's the present stuff versus past stuff. But let's not go into the future, because remember, Ryan is spoiler free.
And that's big thing we've been talking about regarding, in fact, it's going to come up, the new Stewart show. Rob's going to watch it and figure out how much of a spoiler is it and whether or not I can watch it. You know, if it's something like we know in the future that they make a machine that does alternate dimensions, like, is that really going to impact my viewing of this? But we're in the talks of it, and I don't know if I want to watch it. I just don't know if I should yet.
Back to emails. So thanks, Kyle. Always love the emails, and we're looking forward to hearing more.
All right, and the next one, actually, we have two of them from Hunter, right? Says, "Good evening, Rob and Ryan. I've been a fan of The Big Bang Theory since season 6 premiered on CBS. I've been listening to the podcast and just finished listening to season 4 finale. Really appreciate the background of the series, IQ points, and mostly the Sheldon and not Sheldon points. I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of the podcast. I'm about to begin watching the new spinoff and hope you all could do a podcast of it. Keep up the good work, gentlemen." So there we go. We're definitely highly thinking Rob's going to do a little update on that, so you'll have something, and then I will. I'm leaning towards watching it, but again, I'll make the decision. This takes me some time to really process things. I want to make the right choice because this is a spoiler-free show, and I don't want to ruin it for myself or any of y'all. But I don't think there's enough spoilers, so that's why I'm leaning that way.
Well, by the time
Uh,
that this episode launches, my initial thoughts of episode 1 will already be out.
we'll already be out
So
there.
if you haven't
That's
listened to it, go check it out.
Second email is, "Good day, Rob and Ryan. I do have one concern I need to discuss with you. I'm aware you announced the director and writer of each episode, mentioning creators Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady. I respect for your podcast giving credit to the creators, but I have to point out that while they are the creators who are the executive producers and writers of The Big Bang Theory, they didn't write all the episodes. I just have um, to let the information out. Keep up the good work." And I was talking to Rob about this, and it's a really good point because technically the intellectual property, the IP, is there, so they get credit on every episode as writers because they wrote and came up with the initial characters. And something that's going on right now, like as we speak for this episode and coming out this fall, I suppose, Stephen King started a book series with a writer named Peter Straub. And Peter Straub was like one of my favorite horror writers of all times. He passed away, unfortunately, I think it's been like 2 years now, I forget. But he wrote one of my all-time favorite stories. It's called Shadowland, and it's kind of like if Harry Potter went off to a castle to learn magic with somebody who was going to sacrifice him to the devil. And I love it. It was great. Like, especially reading it when I was like a kid, I'm like, this is magic like it's supposed to be with the devil. So I loved his stuff, but he had a book with Stephen King called, the first one was called The Talisman. And they wrote it together, and my understanding is they actually sent it back and forth doing like chapter by chapter. I wasn't there. I just know that they claimed that they wrote it together. And then while I was in college, they released a sequel called Black House or Bleak House, I forget. And it was like the same characters, but as adults. Like the boy in the Talisman like had grown up to be an adult, and there's like an old guy who kidnaps and eats children or something. You know, it's Stephen King stuff. And they're going through dimensions, and it's been a long time since I've read it. Fact tidbit: my copy was in my car while I moved and got hit by a sunlight and the binding all like unglued. And so I actually read it page by page. Like the thing was falling apart. And like I was careful not to sneeze and like scatter all the pages because I was reading them one by one and like throwing them away. But
Burning, sacrificing them.
exactly. And so they wrote those two, and then the new one's coming out, and Peter Straub's name is still huge on the book, not because he had anything to do with this new one, but because he helped write the first two and came up with that intellectual property. So you know, it's my awareness that it's actually protocol to give credit for writing credits, even if everybody knows that, it's still like they were just behind the scenes. Same thing with like Clive Barker and Hellbound Heart, Hellraiser type stuff. But also like I'm not entirely sure how they wrote this, because I've known some TV shows to be written where like one person like starts to write it, but then they have like a boardroom and like five people talk about it, writing down ideas and going back and forth. And I know I've done some screenplays in college, where there were three or four of us around a laptop and one person's typing and we're talking out ideas as we write. Not to mention, it might be that maybe they see a draft and revise and edit it a little bit too. And each episode might be a little bit different. I'm not exactly sure how they handled it for this show, but I would leave it up. Feel free to email us. Do you think we should include their names in every episode, or do you think we should drop them? Because I think it's a pretty fair assumption that we know that they had a hand in every single one. So I'm not attached to saying it, but some people are like, no, you should really give them the credit too. So I'm not sure. What are your thoughts, Rob?
I think I just wanted to respect the episode enough to actually like call out the writers, and honestly, I don't really know nearly as much of this. Hey, I'm that guy that just looked at IMDb and saw writers and their names right there. So this is all kind of news to me. I always kind of just assumed that the creator would have wanted to put his hands on each draft, so that's why I never really questioned it. I do listen to like a lot of other podcasts. That's kind of what helped inspire us create this shows like Office Ladies and other um, like the Scrubs one. I listened to that one too, but and they always kind of seem they always talk about like the writers and like how it's like a writers room, how it's always just like this really big huge collaboration. So I kind
Yeah.
of just assumed the Big Bang Theory was the same way. I mean, a big show like that, I'm sure it just would be like that.
And
I
I'm
just assumed
curious.
so. I'm
I wonder
sorry.
if we could figure out what their protocol was with it, because, like you said, with
I guess we'll have to DM Chuck Lorre.
yeah, hey buddy, what's up? What was your writing process like?
You've been kind of ghosting us the last 20 messages, but we need you now.
We really need you this time, buddy.
I'm just reached out to Chuck Lorre.
Yeah, me neither.
One day I'm gonna get really drunk and DM everybody on this on the show.
How'd
Come
they
on,
get
I'm
all
calling.
our emails?
Well, it's like Instagram.
It's Instagram. Um, you know, funny thing, who was I'm blanking on names. The creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Joss Whedon.
Josh Whedon. I forgot that he did the screenplay for Alien Resurrection, Alien 4, and I was started watching it with my dad, and the what's the word? Not parallelisms, but the similarities are extreme to Buffy and Firefly Serenity. And like looking at Sigourney Weaver, like she's locked up in a cell, like playing basketball in like this kind of leather skin tight outfit. Like to me, look like is it River from Serenity or whatever? Who is like the superhuman killer? I'm like, that's like the same figure. It's like a Buffy prototype. I think it came out around the same time as Buffy, but probably written right before Buffy. Actually, the original Buffy, the weird one that Whedon didn't really have a hand in, just the character design, came before. But anyways, like watching him, like, holy shit, this is a lot like his other shows. So you can tell like he had some over universal themes throughout stuff, and reworked them in different ways. But also, I've heard and seen some images that if you've ever seen Alien Resurrection in Whedon's version, it would have been a lot scarier and made a lot more sense. I've only read tidbits, but it was curious. But anyways, I would say the same thing with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that Whedon usually gets credited, but I don't think he wrote like every single episode. He has like all these other writers, and we just assume that it's Whedon's work, even though it's weird how that happens.
I guess that's the privilege of when you create something.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody else has thoughts, like yeah, keep him, give him the credit, or don't give him. But yeah, I might try looking into what the writing process was too. If it was a writing room and they're spitballing ideas at each other, and one person's typing, or one person just comes up with the script. I don't know.
Either way, Hunter, thanks for the email. Keep them
Yeah.
coming. But all right, I think that's it for housekeeping.
Okay, so it is season 5, episode 22. We're getting close to the end of season 5, and we're getting closer to the wedding. We are on the Stag Convergence, the Stag Night, the bachelor party. Air date April 26, 2012. Writers, there we go, Chuck Lorre, Stephen Laro, and Jim Reynolds. Directed by Peter Chacos. Chacos? Chaco. Chacos? I'm looking for a nod. And like Rob's like, yeah, okay, sounds right. Okay, I, off on this. In Spanish, do you know how you pronounce two L's together?
Sorry, I had to find my mute button.
Hmm.
It's like E,
E.
right?
For
It's
some
like
reason, I've been pronouncing
tortilla,
it more like
yeah,
ja.
yeah, tortilla,
And,
yeah.
and I don't know why that is. Me llamo, me llamo is Ryan. But for the crying, the weeping woman, I pronounced it La Llorona for the longest time, and my class brought up La Llorona. I'm like, that makes sense. I don't know what gave me the J. Like I've just been saying that, and people have been nodding. So, and if I mispronounce something, let me know. But I swear that there's a. Do you know the Roy Orbison song "Crying"? Where he just basically repeats crying like 50,000 times.
I don't
Crying.
think so. Maybe if I heard it, I'd know it, but
I swear there's a Spanish version. I want to say I heard it in Mulholland Drive, where it's like Gerondo, Gerondo. But I need to rewatch it now because my memory might be like, there was never a J, but my brain's like, it's a J, Ryan. Just go with the J. So, yeah, if I mispronounce stuff, my brain makes me do it. I'm sorry. I have no choice. Okay, so talked about that. We will get to the issues I had. They're pretty small things considered for what this episode had. I did like it a lot. We are in the cafeteria, and Sheldon is laughing to himself and talking to himself. And right off the bat, I'm giving myself a point for being like Sheldon here. I talk to myself all the time, and like it's literally just like him, like, yeah, that's a good one, yeah. And like people are looking at me like, you okay there, Ryan? You seem to be laughing to yourself. I've heard it's a sign of intelligence. I think people are just saying that to make me feel better, but I do. I don't know. I do it.
oh, they're definitely just trying to make you feel better.
Just don't hurt us. You're smart, Ryan. So smart. So yeah, Sheldon is laughing to himself, and finally he shares what he's thinking about. That a lichen is an organism made out of two separate species. And this is my first IQ point. Did you look into it?
Not the lichen part, but I did look into something else somewhat related to this. I looked into Jewish basketball players.
Oh, oh, dang. You want to go with that one first?
We can.
Oh, go for it.
So they're all giving examples of what they would be to try to answer the question and everything like that, like what's the best merging and everything like that. Howard says Kanga-Jew, the first of his people to dunk a basketball. So I like that because it made me think of like, are there Jewish people in the NBA? And because like there must be somebody, some Jewish person out there that has already dunked a basketball.
Right?
So I technically didn't look into the first record of a Jewish person dunking because I don't think such a record exists. I just looked into the history of Jewish basketball players, and I actually found some really interesting stuff. Not a sports person. I'm sure a lot of sports people out there are be like, well, duh, of course, and everything. But for me, it's like, I don't do the sports. So I love this, and hopefully you will too. But there are actually many Jewish basketball players, but the original came in 1946 when the NBA was first born. But you know how just like Howard, or Howard's just like us. He would have no idea because he's not a sports guy. The first recorded history of a Jewish basketball player in the NBA is Ossie Shechtman. Uh, uh, it must be Ozzy, Ossie. Ozzy is it probably pronounced, not Aussie, Ozzy.
I think Ozzy would be better, but I'm
Ozzy
saying Ja
Shechtman.
for Ya. I don't know. Ja.
Well, Ozzy Shechtman has gone down in history not only being the first Jewish NBA player, but he even got the first points in the inaugural game of the NBA in November 1st, 1946. He played for the New York Knickerbockers, which would later become the New York Knicks. And honestly, I've always been wondering what a New York Knick was. Like, what is a Knick? It's short for Knickerbockers. And they played the Toronto Huskies. And like I said, I'm just assuming they're in the NBA. One of the Jewish players could probably dunk.
And
But
this is basketball.
yes,
Like
we are
click click.
talking basketball. The big orange, it's the big leather pumpkin. Well, basketball was actually considered a Jewish game for a very long time. Long before basketball became a global billion-dollar spectacle, it was something much humbler. A rough, fast indoor game played in a cramped urban gym. Settlement houses, or YMHAs, which stands for Young Men's Hebrew Association. It was created in 1891 by Dr. James Naismith at a YMCA in Springfield, Massachusetts, as an indoor winter sport. It was great because it just needed very few things. It needed a ball, two hoops, and a gymnasium. The game quickly spread through YMCAs, settlement houses, and later YMHAs. This game was perfect for Jewish immigrants in the US. Not to be stereotypical, but it was cheap. And like I was saying earlier, it didn't require much. The only real equipment people needed was like the ball and sneakers. So, and at the time, you really didn't need height or anything like that. You just needed skill, hustle, and brains. And at the time where the Jewish community was being excluded from American culture, basketball was something accessible that could help them assimilate. It was also the Jewish community that made basketball a game of science, because many Jewish players were shorter and less physically imposing than other opponents. They adapted the game to their strengths. They emphasize speed and cutting over brute force, crisp passing and spacing instead of one on one isolation, set plays and brain work, meaning reading defenses, anticipating rotations, and outthinking the other team. For Jewish fans, watching these teams win wasn't just entertainment, it was a quiet rebuttal to anti Semitism, proof that Jews could be tough, competitive, and as American as anyone else. Popularity grew and grew, leagues were created, and collegiate play started getting bigger. And it was the Jewish players that dominated the game. And now we fast forward to the creation of the NBA. Jewish figures were central to turning scattered regional leagues into a national enterprise. In 1946, a group of hockey arena owners created the Basketball Association of America, the BAA, to fill seats on non hockey nights. The new league that would eventually merge with the National Basketball League to form the NBA in 1949. And if we just want to fast forward to today, um, well, for Howard, since it's 2012, I actually looked at the hot players of 2012 of when this episode was aired. So, Jewish player Omri Caspi debuted for the Sacramento Kings in 2009, the first Israeli player. But like I said, it's understandable that Howard wouldn't really have this information. So of course you would assume that he'd be the first of his people to actually dunk a basketball. But he is not. So sorry to rain on your parade, Howard.
It's the thought that counts, though.
Yep. So lots of information on the NBA, the sport with the big ball, the one where they kind of dribbled that thing.
Have I told you about my angst against basketball any?
What's your vendetta against basketball?
I have a lot. Partially in high school, it was like no matter like all the teacher had us do. There was 2 weeks where we did polo or water polo. We had to run a mile, and the rest of our time in gym during high school was basketball. Even if he gave us soccer balls, people would pick them up and play basketball with them. And I hated basketball to begin with. In middle school, I went to a basketball camp for like a week, and the weekend before, we went out with some friends on a lake, and I got a horrible sunburn on my foot. So my whole foot was a blister and like puffed up. So my foot was like twice the size and oozing stuff. And every time I stood up, like the blood rush to it hurt so bad that I would get dizzy and like fall over. And so like I should not have been playing fucking basketball, but my mom's like, put on some what are those sandals and just go do what you can. And so I go, and I remember telling one of the coaches like, I don't think I should be doing this. My foot hurts. And he goes, it's probably because you're wearing sandals. I'm like, I have a fucking blister the size of North Dakota on my foot, and you're telling me it's because you dumb fuck. I had some issues, and every time I stood up, like I almost passed out. And I still gave it my all. I wanted to make my parents proud. I was horrible. I'm just horrible aim. But it's like every step I took was excruciating. So every dribble I hear now is PTSD of that basketball camp and how much pain it was. And at the end of it, they gave out awards for every stupid fucking thing. I'm sorry. You can cut out my profanity, but I'm still angry. For like this
I'm not.
person was the best player of the week. Here's an award. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not me. But then like the awards started getting kind of weird. It's like this person came and just showed up with a smile on their face every day. Here you go. This person wasn't the best player, but loved being here and did it to make everybody proud. And basically got to the point where this person was in pain every single day and just wrote it out because they wanted a beer, and I got nothing. I'm like, they gave out like 20 awards for like 25 people, and I didn't get one. So I'm
So
still very, very
five
bitter.
unlucky, five really terrible players are getting
Yeah.
the biggest hint of their life.
I'm like, you could have just printed stuff out and like made shit up. Like this was the most Ryan-y Ryan on the team, and you didn't do it.
The
And
huge
so my
nerd
foot was
award.
throbbing, and like 4 weeks later, it healed up. But I'm still like definitely scarred from like going in the sun because of that. Like I had some bad sunburns, but that one was definitely like the worst. And that on top of having to do basketball camp, like I'm just and like it's seriously like the squeak of shoes on basketball courts, the sound of basketballs hitting, the smell of the rubber from the basketball, like all like just like sunburned city, Ryan. And I'm whew,
Man, I had no idea.
I have beef. That was like 35, not 35 years, probably 30 years ago. Like it's still like yesterday. I'm pitch sorry.
I guess
But
that's kind of how I feel about baseball. Not the biggest fan of baseball because I was in Little League. Then, yeah, don't like it.
I remember getting bit by horseflies in Little League, and also like the baseball just loving my face, and I like can't catch stuff, so I had so many black eyes, just wham wham. Like
Oh
I
my
probably
god.
would be much better at math today if it weren't for Little League. So Anyways, that's my one time I went off on sports and basketball in one of my classes, and the guy like in the front row, like I could see his face like just getting more and more mortified, like not angry, but like I with a teacher who hates basketball, and like after my little rant, he goes, "I'm on the basketball team." I'm like, "But I applaud you, and you're awesome." Like,
I'm just letting you know I hate it, and I will be awarding no extra credit.
no, no certificates for coming in and doing well today. Okay, anything else about NBA or Jewish basketball players?
I don't want to trigger you, so let's just go. Let's just go ahead and move on.
All right, so the IQ point. My first thing is Sheldon's right, but he's also kind of wrong. And that's so. This is two parts. What is lichen? But also, humans technically are two species. And even like on a cellular level, we are. And I'm going to get into that. And I know this for many reasons or several reasons. But first of all, according to Arizona State University and USDA.gov Forest Services, Arizona State basically said that the relationship between fungi and oh, where is it? Algae to make lichen is basically a parasitical relationship, but it's usually called symbiosis or mutualism. And my understanding is the fungus thrives underneath, and the algae grows on top of it. And it basically, yeah, is parasitic, where the man, I'm gonna get these words wrong. The fungi creates kind of a moist area and protects the algae from predators, but the algae gives it the fungi food to grow in other places. And yeah, basically in all the places I was saying that fungi kind of gets the better end of the deal. But yeah, it depends how you look at it. The fungus is the dominant partner. What else can I say? Oh yeah, the Forest Service really broke this down a little bit more. First of all, fungi is a separate kingdom from the plant kingdom, but we often think of it as plants. But a big part of what makes fungi different than plants is they do not make their own food with chlorophyll. They rely on other organisms for nutrition, which is important because they are part of the decomposition process in nature. They partner with algal partners. That's something too. Is I was seeing all sorts of words: algal, algae, algae. But algae partners, because algae can do the photosynthesis and turn sunlight into food, and then they share that food, those nutrients with the fungus. And so the fungus is kind of protecting the algae, and the algae is feeding the fungus. The algae, on the other hand, is another kingdom, the Protista, and it includes green, brown, red, and gold algae. But for lichen, oh yeah, there's also something called blue-green algae, but that's actually a bacteria, and it's composed of blue for the ability to live in water and green for having photosynthetic abilities. So for lichen, it has to either be green or blue-green algae. I guess the other three types of algae don't create lichen. And so, yeah, another thing is lichen is not moss, but lichens, yeah, have no roots, stems, or leaves. Another thing is the reproduction. I was kind of curious of how this works, and like to me, everything I'm reading, although Sheldon makes it sound like these are two species living as one organism, it like the more I read, it seems like they're parasitic and living separately. And what really or does this for me is that to reproduce, the fungus creates spores, and those spores go live on other things. But unless those spores get an algal partner, I don't know how to pronounce that, an algae partner, they're going to perish. So basically, the spores have to land and then mate up with another partner and become one organism, I guess, feeding nutrients back and forth. But it does seem like it's more parasitic than it is like one hive mind type entity. But yeah, it is. he is basically right that it does exist, that they do have the symbiotic relationship, and that the nutrients go back and forth, and the fungi technically protects it in some ways. But there are a lot to read and a lot of different types and a lot of distinctions. Although it looks like moss, it's not moss. But the other thing I was going to say is that humans technically are two species, and I would say it's even more than lichen between fungus and algae. And this is because on a cellular level, cells have what are called mitochondria. And have you ever heard of the game or book Parasite Eve?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I never played it.
It's a Square Enix RPG, but it's modern. It's the notion that mitochondria wake up and take over their host to try to take over the world, because theory suggests that mitochondria were a separate entity, like a bacteria, that kind of made its way into the human cell and became part of it. And it's known now as the powerhouse of the cell. And for this information, I looked at Columbia University, Irving Medical Center, and Silence Daily. They had an article of that was basically titled "Cells Powerhouse Once Were Energy Parasites." And so, what I think is cool about this is, I'm surprised I haven't heard more about this, but mitochondria actually have different DNA than the rest of the cell, which is part of the reason we have this theory that mitochondria are not part of humans originally. But we have mitochondria DNA, which is mtDNA, and then there's the cell's DNA, which is nuclear DNA, for my understanding. Uh, but yeah, basically the energy producers creeped into the human cell and ancient cells and allowed them to power up and grow and develop more effectively and turn into, yeah, get energy around, which is interesting because that's kind of like the lichen. But anyways, um, but another thing that we have, and this is where shit got kind of crazy for me. Apparently, mitochondrial DNA acts kind of like viruses, where it can split off and send these fragments of DNA to the rest of the cell, and they just kind of copy and paste inside our DNA. And where was it? I read that there's some studies that suggest people with more what's called the cuts in DNA, NUMTs, which are nuclear mitochondrial DNA, where mitochondria have spliced their DNA with ours. Um, People with a lot of that like die earlier. We don't really know why. Just studies suggest that if you have more of these DNA splices, you're not going to live as long. And apparently, stress seems to make mitochondria release their DNA and splice into the nuclear genome more frequently. So don't stress out, I guess, and you might live longer on a DNA genome level. Um, but yeah, so I'm surprised he didn't say anything. I mean, I guess he's looking at actual larger organism, but on a cellular level, we are two organisms: the mitochondria and the nuclear cell, or yeah, and the human cell, the mitochondria, and we thrive together. We are one at this point. So it's kind of weird that we technically, yeah, are two species, not large species, but. Anyways, we do also have parasites. I don't know if they become the same level of what was it, mutualism or symbiosis, as the case with the lichen. But we do have parasites that live in our eyelashes. Man, I forgot to write down their name. That eat our excess sebum, the oil in our eyelashes, and there's some debates that too many of them can cause eye irritation, but without them, our pores would get clogged more frequently. So they help keep our pores clean. I guess that's good. We also have gut bacteria, stuff that technically it's a different species, a whole genome, not genome, biome in our guts of bacteria that helps break down food. And technically they aren't us, that they are growing on their own and helping us break down our food. So technically we are multiple species in one single organism. But yeah, that's what I had. But the mitochondria has always stuck with me because I'm like, it's so weird to think that in ancient times, two cells kind of branched together, and with their powers combined, they made living organisms or something like that. And I don't think it's just humans. I think it's mammals and most species. So maybe not plants, but yeah. Any thoughts on parasites or symbiosis?
Not about that. I I didn't do a research point on this. Well, I started doing one not because of like I thought they explained what a lichen was pretty well in that. So that's why I didn't do it. But whenever he says lichen, I think of lichen as in like the werewolf. So I was I was wondering if there was a relation. Like, did this parasite lichen come first, and that's what lichens were named after in the lore because they are technically a hybrid of two things, a man and wolf.
Ooh,
But as I did more research, they are completely unrelated.
just two different words.
They just happen to sound the exact same and be something similar. So
Which happens. Didn't we do an IQ point on something where it was like two words that just, or was it something else that evolved? I can't remember what they were, but they sound. No, I think I was talking to Kelsey about it, and there were two words that I can't remember, but they sound very similar. Rumpus and ruckus. And both of them are kind of like loud clamorings, joinings, and just completely different words, different etymologies. And I'm like, wow, words can sound the same and just have similar meanings, and still no correlation. It's weird.
yeah,
All
that's all I
right,
had, or the lack of what I had.
lack of lichen.
I didn't liken that.
I didn't liken that. Okay, so this is where Sheldon does ask if you could be a mix of two species, what would you be? Howard says a Kanga-Jew. Raj says a mix of a swan because he would have the advanced industrial civilization of a human being and the long, graceful neck of a swan. Leonard or Sheldon says that was it? There, Leonard says a horse for the height and a little bit of the genital girth. So he's thinking about the sex. It's fair. Sheldon is the one who says that he would merge with lichen itself so he could be human, fungus, and algae, the triple threat like a three-bean salad. Leonard says or asks why that would be useful, and Sheldon mentions that if he were at a concert, he would be able to enjoy Beethoven for being human. He would be able to live on a tall tree above the crowds, and he'd be able to snack on sunlight. So, the best of all three words. And Raj says Sheldon's got them again, but Leonard disagrees. So, I like Raj. He's like, oh, you got us. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
but Leonard, I like Leonard too. It's like, no, you
No,
didn't. You're
no,
just you're just rambling on like a crazy person.
if you were to mix your species, what would it be?
Oh, I have put zero thought into this. Um,
I meant to put more
Gosh,
thought into it, but I have a couple of thoughts.
I feel like something aquatic just because I'm a terrible swimmer and I'd like to learn how to swim. So this would just be an easy solution.
I was thinking that some sort of fish so I could breathe underwater would be really, really cool.
Because water world will happen, you know.
Right? The ice caps are melting and we're all gonna have to swim to work.
Actually, we did an IQ point. Even if all the ice didn't we? It was all if all the ice caps melt, it would only like gain like what, like 5 feet or
High
something like
feet.
that, or something.
It
It
screw
was
up
something like
some
that. We have
seaside
an IQ
towns,
point on
but
it. Yeah, yeah. It would definitely screw those towns over. But landlocks, you're fine.
we're fine. Yeah, I think maybe a fish so I could have the gills to breathe underwater, or I was also thinking maybe like a tortoise or I'm
Have
going
some
with plants.
protection to like
Some
hide into
protection
your
in my
shell.
own house on my back. Like a
Yeah.
bristlecone pine, one of those trees that lives for like thousands of years, so that I could get the longevity. That might be nice. Although I don't know what I
You,
would do with the rest of my time. Like
I
I'm
know it's
trying to,
like, do you want to live that long?
right? Oh, time to have more kids. It's been
Yeah.
300 years. Okay.
Well,
If
let us
you,
know what you would want to
yeah,
merge into out there. Send us an email, send us a comment. Let us know what would you want to merge with.
Give us your ideas. All right, so Raj brings up Howard's bachelor party. Raj did some research on strippers, and one agency is offering some really good prices if they're flexible with age ranges and number of limbs. That seems really sad, but
Yeah.
also, how did he get this agency's number? Howard promised Bernadette no strippers, though. Raj says he's the king of strippers. One club named a pole after him. So right away, we're seeing Howard's changes that he's okay with not having strippers, although he used to be the king of strippers, apparently. That sounds bad, too, king of strippers. Leonard says they have to do something special, and Sheldon brings up German tradition and a interesting pre-wedding custom, and I did an IQ point on what this might be, but Howard interrupts and says not for him. And I'm giving myself an IQ point here for being like Sheldon because I get interrupted like that quite a bit. Howard interrupts. You say Sheldon's suggestion is not for him. And I don't know. It's not a huge deal, but I also feel it's like kind of a jackass move for Howard to just say not for me. Like hear him out and say
Well,
no
it's a
thanks.
German. I think it was the joke that it was. It's a German tradition. And he's Jewish.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even pick up on that. Wow,
Okay.
over my
Yeah.
head. Good point. And they made that same joke later too, right?
Oh yeah, with Bernadette and
Yeah,
yeah, with Amy. Like, yeah, I love that joke so much. That's a joke that like goes that's rent free in my head. Like our families lived close to each other. Oh, that's cool. No, it's not. I'll
no,
tell you
it's
why
not.
later.
I'll tell you later. So yeah, I'm gonna stay with my notion. Plus, I didn't get the joke. There's secondary reason for me to have a point here. Howard didn't ah, need to hear about German traditions because that went over my head. It went over Sheldon's head. So
Yep.
definitely a reason for me to give myself a point like Sheldon. But yeah, I often get interrupted like that, probably because I'm saying stuff that's like borderline offensive or not appropriate that I'm not even picking up on. So I'm glad you pointed that out. It makes a whole lot more sense now.
That's enough out of you, Ryan. Just kidding.
What? Podcast over. So I did my second and like final IQ point for the episode. I didn't do much this episode, or I didn't have many things to look into. Was potential German pre-wedding customs. Did you look into this at all?
I did too.
Did take over. See what you came up with because I have my thoughts on which one he's talking about, but I'm curious what you
I
think.
think I know which one he's talking about. Do, I found this on the knot.com. Is it Polterbend? Polterbend? Is that the one that you looked into?
I looked into a couple. That's not the one I was thinking of.
Okay. Well, I thought this one what was the one because this sounds the most interesting. It's a very old tradition that's actually still alive today. Essentially, the night before the wedding, the almost married couple, along with their friends and family members, break china and porcelain dishes. Polterbend is usually a casual event hosted by a close family member, and the custom is said to bring good luck. So that was the one that I thought was because I looked at some of the other traditions and they weren't technically pre-wedding because the German culture has lots of wedding customs, but
Yeah.
this seemed like the most interesting one that was pre-wedding. Otherwise, it was things like just normal bachelor parties, sleeping apart the night before the wedding, because it's considered bad luck to sleep in the same house as your spouse to be. To avoid any mishaps, one person will typically spend the night with their parents or close friends. Um, there is the bridal kidnapping, but that's a little different than we all know it from The Office. But what from what I read, it happens different in the timeline, so it didn't. I didn't think it counted as pre-wedding. So unless that was the one that you were thinking.
That was the one I was thinking. I didn't realize it happened different on the timeline. I just figured it was leading up to the wedding or the night before the wedding the bride gets kidnapped, right? And goes drinking with the best man until the groom, air quotes, rescues her by paying their tab and takes her home. And like you said, it's what The Office does. And yeah, that's how people know it.
Well, maybe you found a different site, but the site that I found said that this happens on the wedding day.
Oh.
That's why I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, why would they do it on the wedding day? Why would they? And it's one of those things like it even said like it stopped because it kind of died in popularity because it just completely interrupted the party. Because it's like the middle of the wedding, people steal the bride and take her to a different location. So it's like, well, is the party over? Like,
Party's over, bride's gone.
yeah, yeah. I do like the how they did it in The Office, and I feel like that's how it should be.
Right?
Abduct a woman at some random point before the wedding and then go drinking with her. Or lock her in the trunk like what Mose did.
Right?
I don't think he did it right.
And somebody mentioned too, like it hurts it if you're in a like, or it works if you're in a small town with like 3 bars. But if you're like downtown Seattle or New York City, like which fucking bar are they at? You could be looking for days, and their
You need to
tabs are going
leave
to
like
be
some, yeah.
astronomical.
You need to leave some breadcrumbs as like a trail or like some
Exactly.
clues. The groom has to solve a bunch of riddles.
Riddle me this, groom.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I thought it was Poltra Bend, which sounds awesome. It's funny because like it's basically like what do they call like the popular thing like where you go to like a room and break stuff? It's basically that.
Yeah. I I think that was my second guess. That was Polterman, and like you, I saw this the notion of it's pre-Christian probably, and they never break glass, I guess, but stoneware and porcelain. One place said pots and pans. They make a ruckus, and it's to scare evil spirits away. Um, and apparently the betrothed, like the bride, the groom, like they're left to clean everything up afterwards. So it's like happy marriage. But I also saw that something that correlates with this, and I had it later, but I put in this because they said that often correlates this with trouser burning, where they will take the trousers from the groom or the bra from the bride and they'll burn them and they'll bury the ashes with a bottle of schnapps. And like a year later, they'll drink the schnapps in like memory. But it's like burning their wild escapades, their sexuality, and now they're stuck together, I guess. So they scare the spirits away. Yeah, and then I also thought drinking the schnapps later is kind of like how we save cake. So I was talking to somebody, I'm like, but you save the cake to eat a year later, and they're like, we don't do that. I'm like, I thought everybody had that tradition. That did you say
Yeah,
we
I think that kind of died.
weird?
The only reason why Christina and I didn't do that because our cake was I remember it was so good. We went to this bakery in Tacoma and got like this really nice cake. But we were it was an out of state wedding. So we were at home. We were back in Seattle doing it and then we're not gonna fly home with a piece of cake. It was just like we're just not. So I think my parents ate it like a year later because I think we gave it to them.
We're thinking of New Year cake. We had a ton of cake left because with my ex-wife, Natalie really wanted sheet cake and wanted like just the basic vanilla. If I remember correctly, I'm like, I don't like vanilla. It's my wedding. I want German chocolate, and we found a place that made awesome German chocolate cake. And she's like, okay, we're gonna do the vanilla for everybody, and then we can have like a groom's cake that's yours. And I made it into an Xbox. The Xbox didn't turn out very well, but the cake was great. It was funny. It was the baker who did the sheet cakes for the wedding party. Was like local in the town we were getting married. The other one was like an hour drive north. And I remember we got married on Christmas Eve and everything was like closed down. And I had to go pick it up on Christmas Eve, the morning of. So it was ready. And I drove up there by myself. And the woman, like, she lived even further north and dropped it off at, did I tell you this? At her
No.
son and daughter-in-law's shop. And she goes, you can just pick it up at their shop. I'm like, okay. They had a sex store. And so for the first half of the day,
Oh.
everybody's like, "Where's Ryan?" And Natalie's like, "He's going to the sex shop." And they're like, "What the fuck?" On his wedding day? It's to get the cake. What cake is he getting? It's an
Oh,
Xbox.
you're
Don't
gonna
worry.
love it.
So yeah, I had to go to the
Wink,
sex store
wink.
on
It's an
Christmas.
more like a sex box.
Sex box. And so we had a shit ton of cake, and we were eating it for like the next year, 2 years, and it was really good. Even thought out. But so yeah, they have the schnapps. I was also thinking there's what I found called Jungle Schneed. Wow, I'm butchering that. It's a big word. But basically, stag party. And from 40%German.com, they suggested that there are stag parties in Germany, and they are very common to US or English stag parties where people go out and drink. They usually have silly short shirts with slogans, uh, and they might have tasks. And this was something that was new to me. I've never heard of like brides or grooms having tasks, but they said it might be common to have them do something silly, like selling bottles of schnapps or sweets to strangers. So if you're out drinking, you might have like a bride party come up and say, "We have to sell some bottle schnapps." So they do have stag parties with maybe some fine differences on how we see them. Then the abduction of the bride, the burning of the trousers, and then there's also, and again, the timeline's a little bit different on this. So I'm thinking this isn't what Sheldon was talking about, but there's shoe nailing and saving pennies. And apparently it's common to nail shoes to trees, or it was, and it's kind of grounding the bride and the groom to the earth and basically to the relationship, so they can't run out on their wedding. They are nailed to the wedding now. The saving pennies, I thought this was a cool little tradition, but apparently girls in Germany often, maybe not often, but used to save coins throughout their life and then use those coins to buy their wedding shoes. And so they go to like the shoe store with like a bag of pennies or something and say, "I'm here to buy my wedding shoes. I have a couple $100 in pennies." So it's a lifelong process of saving coins to buy those shoes. But again, I don't think Sheldon's talking about that either. The timeline doesn't necessarily fit. I think probably Polterbin, maybe abducting the bride if it doesn't happen on the day of the wedding. Yeah, what I was saying, it wasn't the wedding day, but that would ruin a wedding, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you have any other ones or
No, you actually
uh,
found more than what I found. So yeah,
I,
I think it's Polter Ben.
Polter? It makes
That would be
sense, and
fun. That would be super fun.
it seems very old. So it seems like a tradition that's been around centuries, if not millennium. And I think it would be really fun too to make a lot of noise and scare the evil spirits away. So, but I think the abduction of the bride could be fun too if done correctly and she's not just locked
Yes.
in a trunk. Raj suggests Napa Valley, and they have apparently a wine train. Sheldon says, "Boo on wine, but yay on trains." He's in. Raj mentions the magic of the wildflowers in bloom, but Leonard says that from 30 seconds, in 30 seconds, they went from hiring women for the bachelor party to being them. Dun dun dun. Uh, yeah, I'm just gonna say I get a point here. I put it down a little bit later, but I was extremely disappointed this episode didn't take place on a train.
Yeah.
I
Was not
was
Sheldon's bachelor party.
That's true, but they mentioned train. I'm like, "Oh shit, another train episode!" And then it wasn't a train episode, and I was like, "Oh," and yeah. So I get that. Although I would be yay for wine, I was disappointed that they didn't do this on a trade. So we have the opening, and then we're in the stairway, and Penny brings up the bachelor party with Leonard. Leonard says there's going to be steaks and scotch, nothing to worry about. Penny wonders why should she be worried, and Leonard says, "Well, there might be strippers. It is a bachelor party." Penny says even if there were strippers, Leonard would avoid eye contact and offer to help the woman's kid with his homework. And Leonard says he's capable of crazy stuff. This kind of starts his B story, the Beeline story of he thinks he wants to be crazy. Penny asks what's the craziest stuff he's ever done with a woman, and the sex in the ocean doesn't count. Leonard says that's gotta count. So that's apparently the craziest thing has ever done. Sex in the ocean. There was a strong undertow, and they could have died. So it was very dangerous. Penny tells him to have fun at the stag party. He says he will, but there's no telling what might happen. Anything's possible. Penny says yes, there is. And Leonard says there's nothing wrong with helping a kid get it, through their SATs. I agree with him that's nice, even if it's a stripper's kid. The SATs are tough. Now at a restaurant, Leonard gives Raj credit for finding a nice place to have a bachelor party. It looks kind of like they might be in the basement of a restaurant or something, but they do have
It's
like a
nice
private
though. It looks
area.
he found a really nice place.
It was very nice. Yeah, especially it seems like it was kind of short last minute. Like that's something you'd have to plan out like months in advance, right? And it seems like it was very maybe not rushed, but um finding a place that large for a party that big that quickly, it takes a lot. So yeah, Sheldon says it's not bad unless you compare it to a train, so that's where I get the train point. Sheldon drinks some whiskey. He is embracing the components of the stag night: tobacco, swear words, and alcohol. Uh, it's pretty amazing. But then he takes a drink and says, "Gee whiz, that's yucky." And so I get 1 point not being like Sheldon here. So as quickly as those points roll in, they roll back out. I love whiskey.
Oh
I
yeah.
like whiskey. It's not G whiz yucky. So Leonard says it's a little early to start dropping the J bombs, right? So the G whiz is not appropriate yet, Sheldon. You can save it for later. Will Wheaton walks in and says that he came because it was either this or another hot tub party at George Takei's house. Is it Takei or Tak? I always want to say Taki.
Decay.
I don't. Takei. Yeah, that's what
Decay.
I thought, but my brain's like, no, say it wrong, Ryan. So Takei's house. And Sheldon is confused, thinking that Will was his friend. Apparently, Will is friends with Howard too. Stuart comes up and asks for help to Leonard for his share part. Yeah, for his part of the check, his share of the check. Uh, he's running a little bit low on money and needs a little help here and there. And he says, and for valet, and for gas money back home. And then he brings up his watch and he says that his grandpa got it. It's gold and he got it from the war. And it could be Leonard's for $100. So he's selling everything off. He must be strapped for cash, which makes me want to watch the new show more. I want to see what he's up to. Howard and Raj come in, and everything seems jolly good fellow. But then Kripke kind of says great and poo-poos it and says, when do the strippers arrive? They bring up there's not going to be any strippers, but Kripke pulled out $200 in singles. And what for? So Stuart says, I have a watch and brings it up to him. It could be yours for $100. Now we're at, is this, I wasn't sure. It didn't look like Penny's apartment. Was it Bernadette's apartment? I think.
I think it was Bernadette's.
I
Yeah.
think so too. Amy is videotaping the wedding activities and says they're just weeks away from the big day. Bernadette and Penny are making gift bags for everybody. I do like that they have a bunch of stomach meds for Howard's guests, and they've labeled them stop and go for what you need to do. And I just remember, I don't know, I always pack a lot of medicine when I go on a trip, just in case. And I was at a cabin weekend with some friends, and somebody goes, "Oh, you're not feeling well? Talk to Ryan. He has medicine." And they're all like over the counter stuff, so nothing like I don't have narcotics on me, but it's over the counter stuff, just like here. And I cracked myself up because I said, "Yeah, I have all you need. What do you need? I have meds to wake you up. I have meds to help you sleep. I have meds to uh, get your head stop hurting. I have meds to make you poop. I have meds to make you stop pooping." And they're like, "What? What the fuck?" But like, I have this little pill caddy, with Pepto, with laxatives, with melatonin, with Advil. I have all sorts of stuff. But like again, over the counter stuff, it's all on the up and up. But yeah, so
I was actually just at an Airbnb trip with my family, and I could tell that my brother and my sister-in-law do Airbnbs a lot because they have a dedicated because every time they go to a, a trip, just like how you go camping and stuff like that, every
yeah,
time you learn from like mistakes. Like, oh,
yep.
we should have brought this. We should have brought that. We should have had this. So they have this kit that in a box that they carry with them to every Airbnb that has almost everything that you could possibly need. It's kind of
Just
like that.
exactly, just in
Just
case, and it's
being
easy enough to
prepared.
have it
Yeah.
ready to go. Did you hear about I just heard about this, but a couple years ago, what's her name? Oh, bling- the woman who was in Scary Movie, in the TV series Mom.
Oh,
She's married to Chris Pratt.
Anna Faris?
Yeah, Anna
Anna
Faris.
Faris.
Um, Apparently she was at an Airbnb with her family over like Christmas. I don't know if it was this year or the previous, but there was like maybe it was years ago, but a CO2 leak and they all almost died.
Oh,
Right?
I did not hear about
And I'm
that.
like, apparently one of them like started getting really sick right away because they already had some health problems, and they took him to the hospital and found out CO2 was built up in his blood, and they immediately sent firefighters over, and everybody like was starting to pass out. So it was very, very
Oh my
lucky.
god.
I'm like, put in that kid a CO2 detector just in case. You never know,
Yeah. Oh my
right?
god. Yeah. Well,
That's
we
when
learned that we it's funny because we're not going to need a kit because my wife and I have decided that we are not Airbnb people.
can't do it. Why is that?
I'm not gonna tell. I mean, we went to a place. It was very nice and everything like that, but it was just like it was nice but not nice at the same
Mm,
time. It was still like a decent location, but it was like, it still feels weird to be in someone else's home and stuff. I know a lot of people just buy places in design for like we're just gonna buy this to be an Airbnb, but it
yeah,
does feel a little weird.
yeah.
And we have a sour taste in our mouth too, just because our kid got sick. So not
Uh,
only were we trapped in this place where it was like, well, I don't know where anything is. We're in a new town and everything. The kid's sick. He hasn't pooped in days. He's not eating. He's puking. This sucks. I mean,
this,
it was circumstances, but then we kind of just looked at each other. It's like, you know what? I think I like hotels.
that's I used to do Airbnbs because I thought they were cheaper, but I don't think they really are anymore. And you're right that people do buy them and develop them as Airbnbs. They are never, and most of them are not intended to be lived in. But I'm noticing quite a few of them like don't allow children. And so I'm like, okay, now
Really? I've never
yeah,
seen that before.
I was looking at several of them just in the nearby area. There was one up in Bellingham or Fairhaven, I think it was called, a little town outside of Bellingham, and it was like an Airbnb on top of a brewery that the brewery developed. So like you can stay up there and then drink during the day. I'm like, that'd be fun. And I also like the town a lot. So, but kids aren't allowed, like anybody under 18 or 21 or something. So, and I know a lot of them, but same with hotels, dogs aren't allowed in a lot of them as either pets.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But the kids thing was kind of weird. And some of them, like you have to pay more if you have a kid, which is fine. But when I enabled like kids allowed, like all the options disappeared in the towns I was looking at, and it was like options further away. I'm like, that makes it kind of a nuisance. But you're right, it's somebody else's space. It feels kind of weird. There's closets you can't open. It's like, what the
You
hell's
also
in
don't really know.
there?
It's also just privately owned, so you really don't know how well it's really being cleaned.
Yeah.
Like a hotel, they have protocols, they have policies and everything like that. I know it's still not the cleanest. I know like you probably don't want to take a black light into them, but I don't know. Like it's someone's home, and like you don't know the quality at which they're cleaning it.
If they're cleaning it, if they have a professional service, and if they're cleaning it, like, do they have the same standards? Absolutely. It's you know, and also sometimes they have really bizarre rules. Like, I'm making this up, but like clean the table and wipe it off 12 times clockwise. It's like, what? Like, and like sometimes when you're trying to get ready to go and you're going through like the checkout rules, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, find the garbage at the edge of the lawn. Don't use that one. Use the one 3 stalls down. Like, what? Like, I'm just gonna leave the garbage outside, and you can. I'm paying to live here, not figure out where your garbage is. Damn. Uh, but again, it's their private place, so they make the rules, I guess. And if you don't do them, you get a bad review.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It gets. I like the hotel. Just it's there. You know that there are some protocols, and the only
You can
downside
swipe,
is
be a Ross Geller and swipe as much shit as you can.
right,
Leave it messy.
not the lamp, but the light bulbs.
Boom. Not the remote, but the battery.
The only downside to hotels, unless you get like a suite, not having a kitchen. Having a kitchen is huge for me. So that like, especially if I'm gone for like a week, like being able to make a meal myself, it's just that goes a long ways. Having to eat out every night when you're on vacation gets to me a little bit. So,
Yeah,
but
I did live out of a hotel when I first relocated here. I was in here for like a hotel for almost 2 weeks.
ooh.
By the end of the first week, I was going a little mad. It was like it was a little maddening.
Yeah. I remember I did a Spanish camp when I was like 16. Like I just learned to drive, and my dad sent me down to El Paso. I think I told you about that. And I was staying in a hotel by myself, and it was like a week long, maybe 2 weeks. I can't remember. But I was eating breakfast. Like all I wanted is like some dry cereal, and like I was going down and eating like a $10 bowl of cereal like every morning. And it was like I'm like why can't I just like roll out of bed in my underwear and like pour a bowl of cereal and eat it and like kind of wake up on my own terms? But it's like I had to get up, I had to get dressed, I had to get down there, I had to order it. Like it's just kind of a lot for every single day. Bernadette gets asked, Amy asks Bernadette what her first sex position will be once she's married on her wedding night. And she mentions whoever is on top may set the tone for the rest of the marriage. Amy says, where was I? Oh, a kid might get a kick out of knowing where and how they were conceived. So they need to document this. And I think the joke is nobody wants to know that. So yeah. But for some reason Amy's asking. Which is weird because I could see Amy definitely asking Penny, but I don't know why she's asking Bernadette necessarily. So, but whatever. Bernadette says she's thinking of hyphenating her name. Bernadette Mary Ann Rodenkowski Wallowitz. And Penny suggests getting that URL before somebody else snatches it up. Howard took care of it. And he also put
Very
some wedding
proactive.
facts.
Yeah.
Was that proactive?
Very
Yeah.
proactive.
Put some wedding facts up on the site and mentions that in Poland for a while his and her families were neighbors. And Penny says that's cool, but again, this is where Amy says, no, it's not. I'll explain later. So yeah, I got this one. I didn't get the first
Yeah.
one, but I'll get this one. Restaurant. We're back at the restaurant, and Raj is giving a toast, and Sheldon complains Will Wheaton is best friends with Howard, so he's feeling sulky for that. Sheldon has takes his turn with a toast speech and starts making jokes at Howard's expense. And Sheldon thought Howard, what were they? Sheldon thought Howard would be the last to get married because he's short and unappealing. But don't. Not really a good joke. It's just an insult. Howard is actually one of the most intelligent people he knows, and that's a zinger because he's not. But Sheldon says Howard would make a fine husband, assuming he'd be able to get the parts and assemble the partner. But and then he says he's a good friend and wishes him nothing but happiness. Bazinga, he doesn't. Double bazinga, he does. So I like the last one. At least it
Yeah.
wraps up. Double bazinga,
That was
he
a good
does.
one, yeah.
So you got us there, Sheldon. But yeah, Leonard gives a speech, says Howard was used to be a wild one. Then he says they all kind of were. And he remembers this one time where he had sex with a girl on a beach. They started making out in the ocean. It was crazy. He wasn't even wearing aqua socks. This is when Barry says to wrap it up. Leonard says, to Howard, I totally had sex in the ocean. So he's trying to brag about how crazy he actually was.
I thought it was a little weird that Kripke was the one that wanted to wrap up like a sex story when the last time, it wasn't the last time we saw him, but when he was with Zach and Zach
Yeah,
was telling a sex story, he was like really invested in it. So
that's a
you
really
would think
good
that
point. And I don't know. He knows that there's no strippers, so what is he hoping for? That they can just go home? Like, this is all there is, Kripke.
yep,
Enjoy,
eat your
right?
steak and listen to the story.
Stewart's turn, and Stewart says he thinks about Howard starting a beautiful life with Bernadette, and he starts getting choked up. Howard has everything. Stewart's 37 though, and sleeps in the back of a comic book store. He has the bone density of an 80-year-old man. I don't know where the fuck that came from, but I love that detail. I have the bone
Yeah.
density of an 80-year-old man. And then as he's like crying to Howard, I thought that, poor Stewart, but I thought it was funny. Barry's turn, and he mentions when you invite a man to a bachelor party, you assume there are going to be strippers. Maybe not fully nude, but at least pasties and G strings. That's not unreasonable. Hear, hear. And so that's his toast. And it's Raj's turn, and he gets up and he says the grasshopper is kicking his asshopper. I like that. When he came to the US, he was lonely, but then he met Howard. They could be lonely together, so he wasn't so alone because he had somebody to be lonely with. Howard became his world. Barry says, this is a nice speech, and tips him and puts the tip in his belt. Raj kind of takes it out and puts it on the table. And I love Stewart just grabs it up really
Yeah.
quickly, like a little klepto. And Raj continues. He mentions the good times, uh, camping and giving secrets. Raj confessed he had an addiction to pedicures. Howard confessed to losing his virginity to his cousin. Howard chimes in that it was his second cousin, so technically still related. I don't know the legalities. I understand second cousins. I know different people say different things, but my understanding is it's your parents' cousin. So it's not your cousin, but some people say it's your cousin's cousins, but I've always learned that it's like your mom's cousin would be your second cousin.
Yeah. And their
So
children are still technically your second cousin
I think
too?
so. I think they
Yeah,
still
because
fall in
that's how
that
we've always
category.
done it. Yeah.
Or sometimes I hear like second cousin once removed or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, the removed part. Yeah, it gets a little
It
complicated.
gets complicated. So I guess it's better than his cousin, but still not
Doesn't matter. You're
ideal.
still in the bloodline.
Still in the bloodline, close enough, too close for comfort. Sheldon says, and the first woman he ever disappointed sexually, Bazinga. That was actually a good quip. So
Yep.
the whiskey's helping Sheldon out with his jokes, I suppose. Then Howard Raj brings up the time that Leonard took Howard to Vegas and they paid a hooker to pretend she was Jewish and that she wanted his little kosher pickle. And Raj says that's his favorite story. Howard tells Raj to sit down. Raj then brings up Sailor Moon, the Sailor Moon girl at the Comic Con, and it's the only threesome Raj has ever had. And he's proud to say it was with Howard. And nothing happened between him and Howard because there were 200 pounds of Sailor Moon between them. And I would say, two things I'm going to say here. One, I get 1 point like Raj. I don't think I'd go overboard, but I probably, at drinking at a bachelor party, if any of their speeches were mine, it would be closest to Raj. My
Just
speech,
spilling the beans, just
yeah,
unleashing hell.
the closest to Raj's spilling too many beans. And then afterward being like, I probably shouldn't have said that. And somebody saying, hey, sit down, you're sharing too much, and me continuing. So I could see
This
me
is
being
why
like,
people have to interrupt you.
exactly. That's why they interrupt me because I'm saying too much. But it's still rude.
You're
But
still supposed to let me finish.
you gotta let me finish, and then you can tell me to shut the fuck up. That's etiquette there. But yeah, more than Sheldon's jokes or Leonard's story about himself, yeah, I'd be more Raj. And this brings up to where part of what I didn't like about this episode was the fat shaming of the Sailor Moon girl, and also the sex shaming. I'm like, Howard was single, Raj was single. There's nothing wrong with meeting somebody who's consenting to a sexual escapade and trying to belittle that. I can understand how, in a little bit, Bernadette gets frustrated because she thought she knew Howard. I don't think she gets to be mad at his previous sexual antics, but she can be mad
Well,
that he lied to her about it.
I think
So,
that's what. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree with that. Yeah,
there's a fine line,
because
and
it sounds like he omitted all of this.
yeah. And the show makes it seem like, oh, aren't you mad at him because he was a pervert and did weird sex stuff? I'm like, I don't think you don't get to choose that. You can choose not being honest in a serious relationship. So I had some issues with that. I'm like, the jokes there are kind of lost on me a little bit. Will Wheaton's videotaping, and he wants to see the world burn, so he's posting it all online. And Sheldon kind of laughs and says, "Jeepers, he's drunk," so he doesn't even know what's going on. Later in the car, Bernadette has picked up Howard and Raj, and she seems very frustrated. Howard says it was all very low key. Asked what she did. She made gift bags with the girls, had some wine, and watched an online video. And the video is Raj talking about Howard humping Sailor Moon. Yeah, Raj says as he's picking up on the awkwardness in the car that they can just stop and he can walk to his apartment. And like as things get weirder, he's like, you don't even have to stop. I can duck and roll at 10 miles and under. And so he's feeling very awkward. She says he's not going anywhere, three-way, so she's blaming him partially. He was part of the three-way. She says Howard lied. He never told her about his cousin, the prostitute, or Raj. So Raj is in there. And Raj says he can just jump out. So yeah, there's a problem, but they go home and go to bed. Now we're at Bernadette's apartment, and Bernadette doesn't know if she can marry Howard. She's crying. And Amy says, Amy doesn't know what bothers her the most, the prostitute, the borderline incest, or the group sex with the girl dressed as a children's cartoon. And again, that's cosplaying, and maybe the cartoon, I don't even know if the cartoon's meant for kids. Like some of it was like very teen or more mature. I was somewhere between. I just because it's a cartoon, it's not like Pokemon. So and people cosplay all the time as all sorts of things. I just that seemed kind of odd to me.
Even
But
Pokemon
whatever it
shouldn't be
is.
for kids.
What was that?
Even Pokemon shouldn't be for kids. Those are children capturing animals and making them fight each other. How
They're
dark is that?
enslaving animals for dog fighting, right? It's very unethical.
It's the most horrible thing I've ever seen.
Fight for me. Fight to the death. I
and
want to be
and I'm going to
free.
contain you with this little Pokeball for you to live out your days.
I'm not back in the ball, please.
Oh, and I'm not even going to take you to a hospital. You're just going to stay in. You're just going to stay in this ball.
You'll be better in a few days.
Rub some dirt on it.
Rub some dirt. Pikachu's dirt move. It's just rubbing dirt. -5 points. That caused an infection. Okay, so Penny says they went over how they're supposed to be helpful. Amy says, was that right? And that was, so she's not sure if she's being helpful,
Very
pointing out those issues.
Sheldon-esque, yeah.
And Penny says, not helpful. You're not being helpful. Bernadette mentions that she used to see Howard as very innocent, and now it's not the case. Again, I don't think it's fair that he could be innocent and sexually active, I guess. Penny says that if that's what she likes, she can take Bernadette to the comic book store. It's full of innocent guys, and she can have her pick of them. Bernadette asks why Penny didn't tell her about the creepy stuff. And Penny says, I didn't think it would last past the first date, then definitely not past meeting his mother, and definitely not past sleeping together. So I'm kind of on Penny's side. Like, at what point do you realize you're in a relationship? You figure out the creepy stuff yourself, or it's out of my hands. Like, I don't get to make up your life for you. But yeah, Penny blames it on Bernadette, but they think it's on her. Bernadette says she thought they were friends and runs off crying, and Amy says that wasn't helpful either. Back at the guy's apartment, Howard is trying to contact Bernadette. He's calling. Raj apologizes, but Howard says he did all those things. Leonard says they did one of them together, so maybe they're both responsible. And as Howard's getting kind of worked up, Sheldon finally brings him a hot beverage because it is etiquette. It's culturally appropriate to give somebody upset a hot beverage, and it's apparently chicken broth because there was a chicken bouillon cube in the cupboard when they moved in 8 years ago, and he finally was able to get rid of it. Two birds, one stone, right? And did he take a drink of it? I don't think so, but I
He
was
did
curious.
not.
He
He
did
just
not.
looked at it and put it down.
Just put it down. Like, why would you even keep it? Just throw it away. But with that said, I I think hot beverages being broth is awesome. I remember when I went to Japan, finding out that on flights, like you can get like coffee, you can get tea, you can get soda, but you can get like miso broth too. And I'm like, that is so awesome. Like as a hot beverage, it definitely counts. And sometimes it just hits the spot. Like when you're on an all nighter, like like I just need something in my tummy. Um,
Agreed. Yeah.
right? It's so good. Back at or Sheldon comes back out and he apparently just threw up the bachelor party, so he's not doing well. He's handling it like a champ because besides the throwing up, I couldn't tell he was hungover too much. So, and he was still nice and brought the hot beverage. Back at Bernadette's apartment, Penny and Amy ask her to come out. Amy says maybe giving him Howard a taste of his own medicine would be the trick, and wonders if Bernadette has a cousin she finds attractive. Ew, ew. Uh, Amy says she's trying to clean up Penny's mess, so it's not very helpful, but she's trying to clean up Penny's mess. Howard shows up on the doorstep and asks Penny to tell Bernadette he's really, really sorry, that if she doesn't want to marry him, he gets it, but he wants her to know that the guy she's disgusted by is the one he's disgusted by too, but that guy is gone and that it's all because of her. And again, this is where it transfers from him lying to him being a disgusting guy. And I don't think what he did should be shamed like that. So it's kind of like if him saying, I apologize for lying, she should know, but I felt like it went a different direction, you know?
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, I understand the sex positivity. I understand like the cosplaying, the role playing, and stuff like that. Even the threesome, but I think the maybe the ick factor was like the paid sex too. It's like there's something a little different.
But to
There's
be
something
fair, he
kind
wasn't
of
the one who paid her. He didn't even know, right?
that and that's where it gets a little gray too, because like the way that they displayed the story was that he paid for it, but technically he didn't pay for it, but at the same time he did find out about it and he did go with it. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily as innocent because he full on, like when the deed happened, he fully knew that she was a prostitute.
Interesting, because I took it more as the Raj thing being the bigger issue in those stories. I feel
Oh.
like Amy's picking up that it's the incest. You're picking up the prostitute, and I was picking up the threesome, the
Wow.
interaction with Raj.
Well, we
And
covered all bases then.
yeah, there were several stories, and they work well together because there's several issues. It's just, yeah, where is it the lying factor, the ick factor? How much is it? I could see the paying a little bit too. It's just a little bit confusing there, and what's actually the problem. And I feel like he feels ashamed of himself, and I can't remember what movie it was where a grown-up daughter, I believe, is staying with her mom or something, and she complains that her mom's sleeping with somebody, and the mom says something like, "You don't get to make any choices or judgments on who I share my bed with." And I'm like, I think that's totally reasonable. Like, you're an adult, everybody's consenting, I guess, and people are too quick to make judgments. All the paying stuff, and him going along with it, that's a little bit too. And the line, definitely, it's just, I don't know. But I do like that he's trying to be a better person. So there's that. It's just,
Yes. Yeah.
is he trying to be, if he continued to lie, or was he just ignoring himself? I don't know. But anyways, he tells Penny to say that Bernadette made him a better man and thank you. And I love that Penny's like breaking down crying, saying, "This is the most beautiful thing ever." And it
Yeah.
came out of Howard, of all people. Bernadette comes out and heard his voice. His voice travels through walls, much like his mother's. She still really mad and wants to know what else she should know. He says there's a couple things, but they happened overseas, so he'll tell those later. Uh, Hopefully, none of them happened in space. They were together while he was in space, right?
Yeah.
So the wedding is still on, and Amy says, "Thank God she's still a maid of honor." She's happy about that. They all hug, and this is like weird too because Amy says this is kind of hot. So like they just went through like this whole sex pervert thing, and then Amy makes the sex joke, and unless she meant literally, this is kind of hot, but I think she meant it sexually. What do you think?
No, I think she meant sexual.
Yeah. So
She's turning into a wild child.
wild child, and to be fair, she's close to Penny, so that's part of it. Uh, but yeah, kind of a weird turn on after the whole sex issue, and then getting into, I don't know. I still thought it was funny. Just confusing. I was confused. Now we're in the laundry room for the final scene. Penny asks why Leonard is in a robe. He walks on in, strolls on in, and he takes it off, drops it, and he's in his knickers, and says he's going to have sex with her right then, right on that washing machine. And she's just like, with a straight face, "No, you're not." And he says, "Please." And she says he can help her fold the sheet. And he says, "Folding a sheet in my underwear? That's pretty crazy. He'll take it." In the end. So he's maybe not crazy, but she's okay with that. I'm reminded a little bit of the Wings episode where, probably brought this up, Helen and her sister and some other people are talking about crazy sex places, the weirdest place they've ever had sex. And Helen's sister says, "At the edge of my bed." And everybody just looks at her and she's like, "I've never lived." And
That was also
so,
in Friends too. Yeah, but I
was
guess
that in
Wings
Friends?
came. But I guess Wings I think did come first.
And I noticed this the other day that jokes like have a way of happening throughout sitcoms. There was a episode, I think Friends did it the best, but there's an episode where Ross goes to this woman's house, and it's not Heidi Klum, but it's some supermodel, and her house is
This
a
is
total mess.
Rebecca Romaine.
Is it Rebecca Romaine?
Yeah.
And like there's a part where he sets his hand down, and like it's just covered in black goo or something,
Yeah.
and I'm rewatching the Full House series, and there's an episode where Danny dates somebody who's messy, and we know Danny Tanner is like the clean freak, so it really bothers him. And I don't think it's as extreme as Friends, but he goes over, and as he's like kissing her, he starts folding her socks. And
Yeah.
so it's like the same joke of dating somebody who is extremely messy and the implications. And I swear there was another show I watched that the same exact joke in a different way of dating somebody who's incredibly messy was brought up. So there's nothing new under the sun. But Wings, Friends, where's the craziest place? At the edge of my bed. But again, with Wings, I always loved it because she starts hooking up with Brian, and they start having sex in weird, weird places. They're like, one of my favorite lines is they're having sex on Joe and Helen's like wedding day, and they like pull themselves into like a laundry closet at the hotel, and she's like, "What's wrong with us?" And he's like, "We're sick," and like jumps into the closet. So she got her crazy life too. And that's the end. We are on the vanity card. Which, before I go into this, anything else to say about the episode? This is a long one, so
No. Yeah, you brought up some really good points. Like there was some really like a lot of good things about this episode, but like there was a lot of like questionable things and everything. Like, and I made a note of like the sex positivity and the fat shaming and stuff like that. I really didn't like that, and yeah.
But it's still a solid episode. And funny things, I stand by it. Would have been better on a train, but all things are so.
Oh, and one other thing that we should mention, Howard's friends at the bachelor party, people that we've never seen him interact with, but it's
Yeah.
people at the comic book store. So you see them at the comic book store over and over again. But we do see Captain Sweatpants,
Oh.
Ian Scott Rudolph. I looked up his IMDb, and I've never seen him anywhere. But there is Jesse Hyman, who is known as the world's greatest background actor because he's literally in like most sitcoms, like just somewhere in the background. Like there was actually a documentary about him because he was
Really?
yeah. And then uncredited, a guy named Zach Sonnenberg. So those are Howard's friends.
I want to watch this documentary now.
Yeah, if you see him, you'll probably recognize him because I've seen him in. I've definitely seen him in Community and Parks and Rec.
He does look familiar. So, that I bet that's a funny documentary.
Yeah, because hey, it's a great way to make a living, just or just some side money. It's like you probably have like a regular 9 to 5 job, and it's like, hey, I'll just be a background actor. I'll just
Right?
kind of
Like, just call me when you need me, and I'll make a couple grand here and there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chuck Lorre Productions 386. I like words. I like the way they sound. I like their subtle shades of meaning, their power, and most particularly their ancient roots, their origins. For example, I recently became fascinated with the rather routine word miscellaneous. To begin with, it really sounds great. Miscellaneous. I dare you to say it out loud and not smile. Plus, you can just forget its meaning and have fun with it. Miscellaneous, miss a lot. Then consider its long journey from Latin miscere to mix to its current form. How did miscere become miscellaneous? Whose idea was it to drop the ear and add Elanius? And why? Were they drunk? Was it some sort of strange speech impediment that caught on with general populace? Or more likely, did the French get a hold of it and decide to do what they do best, unnecessarily fancy it up? Fancy it up. Makes you think, right? And speaking of the paths words take to arrive at their current form, how can anyone not be entranced by the rocky road traveled by the old Germanic word ficken, Ficken, to move back and forth? Was it first used in carpentry? Grab the other end of this saw and we'll freaking it across this log. Or is it the Teutonic ancestry of fickle? First you say we should sack Rome, then you say we shouldn't. Boy, you are one ficken barbarian. Of course, it could very well be the root of another word that described a back and forth motion, but if that were the case, this vanity card would probably be censored. Ficken.
Yeah, he's just writing to write. He's just making them longer and longer.
Yeah, although I agree with I love learning etymologies. He's thinking of fuck, fucking. But as far as I know, there's like that etymology is kind of unknown. Like there's multiple thoughts and theories on where it came from. But maybe he's right that it would be censored if he said that one.
Yeah, but he does have a good point of like, yeah, etymology. It's like, how do we decide this? Because we collectively as humans just kind of decide language.
Right? We just talk and the shit comes out of our mouths and it becomes words.
Yeah.
And they grow and prosper. I always like mentioning peruse. I think we've talked about it. It means its own opposite, right? How does that happen? I don't know. And that's it.
It's also kind of like the whole like we we've kind of talked about this, like words and meaning and stuff like that. It's like, how are you doing? I'm good. Technically, that's improper. You're not supposed to say. You're supposed to say like you're doing well,
Yeah.
because good isn't like a state of being. Or it's not a state of. Well, what am I trying to say? It's not
It's
as
an good's an adjective and well is an adverb describing the being, the manner in
yes,
which
but
you are. Although arguably, if you say I am good, like that means like you are of good character and doing of the good quality.
yeah,
So it I always think of that one with Mr. Feeney on Boy Meets World, right? Where he says, "Go out and do good," and they're like, "You mean well?" He goes, "No, I mean good." The end, right?
yeah.
It's like, ah, heartfelt.
Yeah. But we as people collectively do this, so technically it is kind of like we the people have decided
Yeah,
to an extent, but not
subconsciously.
really.
Do you have any words in foreign languages that you like? His mention of the German words reminds me of one I've started hearing a lot more often, but until my dad brought it up like maybe 2 years ago, I had never heard of it. German word called Schadenfreude, and it means
Not
to find
familiar.
pleasure at somebody else's expense.
Like you're
So,
making fun of someone.
like when they're running in a race and then they trip and fall, and you don't like them, so you're kind of happy that they tripped and fell. And it's like kind of awful because we're kind of bad people, but like people, I mean, when someone you don't like fails, or like you get some pleasure out of somebody else failing horrible or bad things happening, yeah,
What was that word again?
Schadenfreude. So I think of like
Schadenfreude, like you're throwing shade.
throwing shade
Schadenfreude.
by
Yeah.
Sigmund Freud.
Yeah. I know some people that are like that definitely got the Schadenfreude.
They're heavy on the Schadenfreude.
Yeah. No, I actually have not put. Yeah, I don't really do a lot of foreign languages. I'm pretty bad at them. I did Duolingo for a little bit and crash and burned. So I cannot contribute to this conversation.
You know, now that we've talked about, like tomorrow, you'll have like the perfect example. Like, I do love one word from like
I have
Norwegian.
to text Ryan now.
It's an Icelandic word that means everything to me.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts?
That's all I've got.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy. Just scroll down and click 5 stars. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. And we will see you next time when we discuss Season 5, Episode 23, The Launch Acceleration.
Oh,
See you
really
then.
quickly, I 153 points, not like
Oh,
Sheldon. 154 like Sheldon.
and I got ahead of myself too. We have 3 IQ points. Oh.
Actually, I need to flip flop these. I think it is the same, but I did one of each on each side, but I may have to redo this. But yeah, this needs a little TLC. I don't know what happened.
All right.
Uh,
Have a good night, everyone. Or
See
day,
you later.
whenever you're listening to this. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory Watch Along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening.
Christmas
More like a sex box.
sex box.